Hey everyone, it's Duncan here, and today we're back with BFD to take a look at my top 6 laid-back / chill hop lo-fi drum grooves that I believe every producer should know. So before we get started with this video, I was really inspired by Yusuf Days. I really love his organic sounding drum kit, but also how saturated and somewhat lo-fi it is. When I started to create these drum grooves, I wanted to try capture that 90s hip hop groove, but also capturing some of that new jazz like Yusuf Days that we're starting to see evolve from genres like lo-fi and chill hop. So with that being said, let's open up BFD Player and take a look at my first groove. So the first thing that we're going to want to do before we even look at the grooves is we're going to want to choose a kit that gives us as close of a sound to that jazz kit that we're after. For this, BFD Player does have an expansion pack called Jazz Brushes. When we click on here, I've gone for the preset called Lifted Beats and Brushes, which is basically a crunchy drum kit with tuneful toms that's good for treating your drums like samples. When we head over to the mixing control, we have a couple different controls on here. We've got an attack and sustain, mono and wide, clean and crunch, and bit crush. Basically, our crunch and our bit crush is going to add a little bit of distortion and change the fidelity of our drum samples, where the attack and sustain, we're basically going to be making that as tight as possible. So let's take a listen to our first drum groove. So when creating different grooves like this, what we want to do is we want to try find a specific part of the drum kit that we want to highlight throughout the entire groove. For this groove, I've basically gone for a varying velocity 16th note hi-hat pattern, which is carrying the main groove of the track. What we can see here is when I highlight all the hi-hats, we've actually got 3 different hi-hat hits, which all sound different, and each one of them are varying velocities to carry that groove forward. When we listen to the hi-hat soloed, it sounds like this. What we can hear there is even without a kick and a snare, the whole drum groove has actually got quite a groove to it. Now this is because we're varying the velocity on all of the hi-hats, but also we're varying the quantizing to make sure everything's not stuck to the grid. So what I've done here is I've added a very simple kick and snare pattern with a couple of ghost notes on the snare to keep things interesting. And then really at the end of every kind of 2 bars, I've added a open hi-hat with a foot catch just to kind of make things a little bit interesting and keep the beat flowing. This next groove is all about being laid back and allowing things to breathe. Really what I've got here is I've still got a 16th note hi-hat pattern, but I've changed the velocity on the offbeat to just give an almost pulsating feeling to our groove. I have adjusted the quantizing as well to give it an element of swing, but really the main part of this beat is our kick and snare pattern. We've got it very straightforward just on the quarter notes with a couple of ghost notes sprinkled in that really allows for a lot of breathing room at the end of each bar to add a little fill. We've done this at the very end here with a couple of toms. So even though the tempo is not too different from our previous beat, what this ends up doing is it gives us a very open and laid back feeling, allowing for a lot of other elements to come into this groove. So if you've got some other guitars and bass and other chords on piano, this will work brilliantly for that. Alright, so for this groove, what I really wanted to do was I wanted to highlight our snare sound. And by snare sound, I'm really meaning that kind of stick noise rim shot that we've got going on. Luckily with BFD Player, there are plenty of sampled sounds to choose from across our whole kit, and I really want to make use of not just using a full snare like we always do. With this one we've got a couple of nice stick noises and also a couple of nice rim shot noises, which are going to give quite a laid back feeling to our drum kit. The main groove still has a 16th note hi-hat pattern with the offset on the velocity, with a couple of highlighted hits every now and then to kind of keep the groove interesting. Our kick pattern is quite simplistic and it's just leaving enough breathing room to allow those snare hits to really sing through. What this does, along with a drop in tempo, gives a really laid back chill feeling, which would be great for some acoustic guitar or any kind of style of that beat. Right, so with this next groove, what we're basically doing is we're following a very simple structure to the previous groove that we had, but this time rather than using those rim shot and stick noises as our snare, we're actually going for a full fat snare in this. Now as you can hear, it really amps up the whole energy of this track. Our hi-hats are very similar, but this time we've upped the energy a little bit and also added some emphasis notes every now and then. This keeps the kind of whole groove interesting and also kind of changing from bar to bar. At the end of each bar as well, we've also added a open hi-hat, which just kind of signifies emphasis in that area, which could then be really good for any kind of groove element from some other instrument to come in later on. So this next groove is all about ghost notes. Now ghost notes, like I've spoken about before, are lighter hits that will basically keep a complexity and groove element going to your actual drum track, but without getting in the way of your main hits. And I've done that exact thing on this beat. We've got our simple 16th note hi-hat pattern to keep the groove going, with the offset velocities on the offbeats, and then a very simplistic kick and snare pattern. But the way to kind of keep it more interesting is I've added these ghost notes in, varying on each bar as well, just to add a little bit of complexity to our overall drum groove and keep things interesting from bar to bar. This is also then not getting in the way of our main snare hits on each bar and allowing enough breathing room if we had another kind of melodic or groove element in there, like a guitar or a bass. So this last groove is nice and chill. Basically what we've got is we've got our normal 16th note hi-hat pattern, and we're really kind of playing on a couple of the other elements that we featured in our previous grooves. So our snares are nice and soft. What we've done is we've paired one of our main snare hits with a rim shot and stick noise, with a couple of then fills being focused around that stick noise. Our kick pattern is very simplistic, and what this ultimately does, along with a massive drop in tempo, is this is basically giving a really nice laid back chill vibe, which is going to be great for any chill hop or lo-fi style track. So there you have it, that's my top 6 laid back jazz inspired drum grooves that I believe every producer should know. Hopefully you found some inspiration to go out and make some more jazz inspired drum grooves yourself with this video. Make sure you check out the description in this video. We're going to have a link to BFD Player and also the preset MIDI packs that you can just drag and drop straight into BFD Player. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a like, comment and subscribe. It really helps out. I've been Duncan, and as always, I'll see you on the next one.